Hello, it's been about a month since my last video, so it's time for another update on the progress of the Printalizer Densitometer project. So a lot of things have been happening in the past month, though I'll admit there might have been a little bit of hurry up and wait in the middle of it. The first item of interest is the whole debacle over what push buttons I'm going to actually use on the top of the device. So when I originally designed the device, I wound up using these rather tall button caps, which were really all that was available from the manufacturer of the tactile switches underneath them. But I noticed when digging around on various distributor sites that they actually made a shorter version of this button cap, only in black, but it wouldn't protrude so far above the enclosure of the device. Encouraged by what I saw, I went ahead and placed a rather large order for these back in November. There was a pretty long lead time, so I needed to get this thing in as quickly as possible. Not too long ago, that order finally arrived, and much to my disappointment, they didn't fit. This was pretty infuriating because I waited months for something and they didn't fit. When I looked at the data sheets, they should be identical to the button caps I was using, except shorter. But when I look at the physical buttons, the dimensions were not the same on the underside. I even reached out to the manufacturer, who was able to confirm that these buttons don't fit the switches I was using, but they couldn't tell me what they did go to. So that being said, I realized I'm probably just going to be stuck with the taller button caps. So then the next question was, do I go with black or white? Well, I've always kind of thought that white looked better, it contrasted better. I was only willing to settle for black if that would get me shorter button caps. But given what happened, I think I'm going to go with white. So I went ahead and I placed another bulk order for the white button caps for the production run. These actually fit fine, so it's not a concern. The next thing that I wanted to do, since I now knew what the final product would look like, is to go ahead and actually do some product photography. The photos that were previously on the company website were of an older prototype that wasn't really representative of what the final device would look like. Sure, similar in shape, but not in color. So I went ahead, got out my whole big product photography rig, set up the background, the lighting, the camera, and went ahead and took a whole fresh set of photographs to put on website and social media. So now that's taken care of, which is great. I have a set of photographs that I can use to show off the product. The next thing is I really wanted to build the remaining pre-production batch of devices. In order to do this, I needed more of the 3D printed enclosures that I'm using for them. Well, that order took a little longer than expected, but it finally arrived, and now I have enough of these 3D printed shells to fill out the entire pre-production batch. Having those in hand, I got back to assembling more circuit boards. So I built 4 more circuit boards of the pre-production device and then assembled them into complete units. I'm probably going to build another 2 to 4 on top of that, but right now I have what I need to move forward to the next step. That next step is compliance testing. I've gone ahead and scheduled compliance testing for sometime in the near future, probably in about 2 weeks. And that's where I take a prototype of the Printalizer Densitometer to a lab to find out if it meets all the necessary regulations for electromagnetic emissions and immunity. That's one of these sort of annoying requirements that you have to satisfy if you're going to be selling a product in most parts of the world. So that is actually the last hurdle that I have to clear before I guess you could say I'm legally allowed to proceed to production. However, I also am going to start sending out beta units to a select group of testers around the same time as I'm wrapping up the compliance testing. I already have the physical units that I'm going to send to some, and I'm going to have to build a few more. And I still need to prepare the calibration materials and the complete kit that I'm going to be sending out. But I have all the materials that I need to do that. So, as a recap, what have I done so far in the past month? Well, I've finalized the physical construction of the device. I now know what button caps I'm going to use. I've done product photography. I've assembled more prototypes. And I've scheduled some upcoming test events. So, if all goes well, I'll be assembling yet more prototypes and putting together sample kits over the next few weeks. Then I'll probably want to have those in the hands of users for some time so I can work out any firmware kinks, take any feedback, change anything, figure out what needs to go in the manual, everything necessary for a complete product. And then, hopefully as the summer approaches, I'll be ready to start gearing up for production. So, everything is going well, and that's where things stand.